So I want to tackle the issue about the religion and politics that have been playing in both in the United States and the Philippines. Before I get to that, I want to share to you that if you've been hearing of the news about the U.S. Supreme Court case about a women's rights on abortion and birth controls in the workplace had took an effect, and there was already a Supreme Court decision to that. But you can read that for yourself, which I'll send on the link below. What I want to say here is that how if you want to look at the history or in the background of the religious right, or to be specific, the Christian right, which it's a group of the so-called Christians who have taken a very big role in U.S. politics. I can just, if you want to look at their history, I'll just send you the link below. So this video is about how the evangelical Christians in the conservative side have been playing a big role on the government, which how they are doing the same playbook as what they're doing in Philippines through people who are running the Catholic Church. So I'm gonna share to you how the Christian right are doing this kind of tactic and playbook as the same thing that they're doing in Philippines. And I'm going to share to you how these Christians are trying to make the US like the conservative attitude in Philippines. What I want to put out first is that in the Philippine Constitution, just like in the US Constitution, there is a separation of church and state. Like in the US, how it has the system of separation of church and state. What if I were to tell you is that the separation of church and state in Philippines Constitution is just only on paper, but practically, and yes, practically, the church is the state. Well, why did I say that? It's because throughout the decades, the Catholic Church has played a very big role in meddling affairs with the state, and the state cannot enforce particular bills and laws in both Congress and Senate without any meddling with the Catholic Church. And not to mention that the Catholic Church is a very powerful sector in Philippines, not to mention that it's a predominantly Catholic country. So let me tell you how the American Christian right are trying to implement this kind of agenda in the US government, and how they want to implement this feudal structure towards how women should run their bodies. Let me just say that I do go to Christian Protestant churches and Catholic churches. I don't really have any problem with the Catholic Church, and I do go to Catholic churches to listen to sermon and pray. But what I am just gonna say to you here is that how the upper edge of the Catholic Church in Philippines has played a significant role in this kind of meddling with the state, and how they have did their very best to control the states through their politicians. Abortion is still illegal in the Philippines, and there is no free access to birth controls and no access to contraception nor family planning, because they have all been blocked by government officials who are under the leash of the Catholic Church. And they are one of the reasons why Philippines became one of the most skyrocketed with overpopulation throughout the years. And now today, Philippines is, for a group of islands, is already more than 110 million. or maybe more so, but those who are not included in the birth certificate on the 110 million. Even some hospitals and clinics in Philippines, and there's a famous hospital in Manila where it's already crammed and already swarmed with tons and tons of newborn babies, which about the documentaries of the overpopulation and the number of babies that have been born in that particular places, I'll just send it into the link below. Well, despite in the Philippines of being abortion that it is illegal, there are still some places there that are still doing it by secret without any getting caught. So this is what the Christian right wants for America, this kind of system like that in conservative Philippines, and to put puppet government officials to abolish this free healthcare system of reproductive health, from birth controls to abortion to contraception, and implement this kind of no birth controls, population skyrocket, etc., etc. All the things that I've mentioned about the Catholic Church in the Philippines meddling with the government. So I think that like this is a dangerous move, that if they put these politicians in power, they're going to implement the same thing like in Philippines, and it's also gonna cause a population problem. So for the Filipino people and the Catholic priests, I think need to have a common sense and be realistic how the population needs to be minimized in large crowds, because I think that like as the result, this with no sex education, no family planning that has been taught, and lots of Filipinos are having sex frequently, leading to more and more babies, that poor people who don't have access to contraceptions, birth controls, and family planning are having more than 5 babies. And I was watching a documentary how this particular poor family had already more than 10, or at least like the maximum 16 babies. Unbelievable, isn't it? It's the truth. But I don't think the upper edge in the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines will ever have to fix this population problem, because they want more and more and more and more babies to grow, because the more people, the more power they have, the more churches they build, and the more money they get. If you're Filipino and you're watching this, you obviously know that people who are from the like upper class tend to have minimum children, while people from the lower class tend to have more kids. So here's what I want to say, is that these religious fanatics should not run the US as to the same thing how the Catholic Church is running the Philippines. Or to say this in other words, this group of people should not take the position of power